What made you decide to go for an EP versus a full album right out?
You know, I just this is like an introduction, you know what I mean? And like, you know, it's gonna just like make the groundwork. It's gonna show the groundwork. You know, it's gonna give me my start and just so everybody get familiar with me. Everybody know what I'm doing and how, you know, what I'm bringing forth to the game. And at the same time, it's a lot of things that I held back as well, you know what I mean? So for my future tense, you know, it's a bunch of things I have in the works, you know what I'm saying, that I'm doing right now. So
That you've held back that are not gonna be on this project?
Yeah, that's not even on this project, you know what I'm saying?
Why you being selfish though?
Nah, you know, I just think that in this climate and what I was doing, what I'm doing, it's such a hard aggression, and you know what I'm saying? It's more like the sounds of poverty, you know what I mean? So
Oh wow.
So you know, in my later story, it'll be something a little more same thing, but it's gonna be with some other jewels in there, some more little softer things in there. At the same time, you know, just showing the full spectrum of me and my personality.
You've been good with the anthem type records, like
Right.
the big records that everybody just goes nuts over. Do
Yeah.
we have one of those for the summer?
Oh, definitely. You know what I mean? And you know, you're gonna definitely get one for the summer. Definitely.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And it's like you're gonna have that. Plus, you're gonna see a lot of the lyrical content. You know, you're gonna get that as well. And at the same time, you're gonna see just the bridging of the gap. You know what I mean? Bringing other people together. Like we got Problem from Cali on there and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So that's my guy. We like really rocking our heavy. You know what I mean? Right.
Let's step away from the music real quick.
Okay.
Because everybody's going to ask you about that.
Right.
I want to get to know a little bit more about this Concrete Rose character thing we
Okay.
got going on. Like, you know, you're speaking from a place of, you know, you said aggression.
Right.
And that seems to be everywhere today as far as, you know, cops against us against each other.
Right.
You know what I mean? How does your music fit into that? If it does at all.
No, you know it does. You know what I mean. And the way that it fits in is that like, if you notice, you know, it been riots and all sorts of shit like that, and that's a lot of it is because, you know, when you're in the area in a situation where it's like you're fighting to survive. You know what I mean? And it's like it's not like other people when they're living. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they're living for 20 years down the line, you know what I'm saying? And for us, it's like we're fighting to survive day to day, on a day-to-day basis, you know what I mean? And the way, that's the reason why my music has such an aggression, you know what I mean? Because it's like, when you're coming from that, it's hard for me to make singy, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not one of them kind of guys where it's like, I'm not gonna get on the record and say, I got $40 million, and I don't, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna jump around and be like, you know, I got 17 Ferraris, you know what I'm saying? I'm just not one of them kind of cats, you know?
Thank God, because if you did, I'd tell you to give me one.
Right, you know what I mean? Like, right, shit.
You got 17, you can spare one.
You know what I mean? So it's like, you got a lot of these dudes, you know, they get up and they just, you know, they just front, you know what I mean? They don't have nothing in their pocket and they talking. So for me, I'm so much of a people person. I want to represent the people and be the people's champ. So my shit gonna be honest, it's gonna be real, and it's gonna be legit, and it's gonna push forth that anger and aggression that's inside of us all, you know what I mean? You know, just like you mentioned about the cops and things like that. You know, when you seeing situations where people are getting killed and beat on and dudes is dying at the hands of police, you know, and then people rioting and you know, you get a lot of criticism when people like say shit like, you know, they burning down their own communities.
Right.
Right? But they don't tell you that when they want to go outside of their community, they're faced with these large police lines once you start to cross into these other areas.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Where you're someplace they feel you don't belong.
Right, exactly. So you got to say to yourself, what's wrong with that? Right? They'll let you do what you're doing where you at.
Right.
Right? They'll watch that burn down, but once you start to cross the avenue into other areas where you start kind of crossing that poverty line and going on the other side to do damage there, like people quote unquote act like they want you to do, it's a police line there though.
Right.